Hi everyone, I'm going to do some poppies today. So this is part of my beginner's pen and wash series. I've got a piece of Saunders Waterford which is about 5 by 7 inches here. Common palette that's linked in the description. And I've got a round number 10, a round number 6 and a rigger. So I use all the same things for my beginner's series. I've also got a black Uniball waterproof pen. So you could use a black, you could use a sepia, you could use a biro even. You don't need it to be a particular pen as such. Okay, so I always quite like to start with a bit of watercolour first because I think it makes you put less pen on and that becomes more expressive. So with my round number 10, I am coming all the way over. So I'm going to get a nice sheen on here. No dull dry bits. And then I'm going to use some of the colours here. So I have got cerulean blue. I'm going to start to bring a little bit of that in. So I'm going to keep quite light with these background colours, and that is because then the red of the poppies will be quite powerful and quite strong. So I want you to dip into the water, take a little bit of paint on, but not too much. So I'm bringing this through. Rinse that brush out. So I'm still with my round number 10. I'm going to bring in some dabs of yellow. So that might mix with the blue and make little bits of green. That's absolutely fine. Again, I'm keeping it quite light and fluid. Getting some nice different tones happening. So, and the next colour that I'm going to use, I think I'm going to go with a bit of alizarin crimson. So again, not too potent. A little bit on the brush, spread it around, it's nice and fluid still. So start to get little bits of purple happening there as well. So these are all nice tones that will work really nicely underneath the poppies. Okay, so I'm going to swap down to a number 6. And I'm going to come into some cadmium red. If you want to make this darker, depending on the poppy colour, you can go cadmium red, you can go cadmium red deep, you can take a bit of alizarin into your cadmium red. So there's ways and means. Can you see how much I'm activating this now? I want this to be nice and thick. So that when I come on and swirl this around, I'm going to get a nice strong poppy shape. Odds always work better, so we're going to go for odd numbers. Cadmium red's opaque, semi-opaque in Cotman, so it also means that it's going to overpower those transparents underneath. So I've got 3 nicely sized poppies here, a couple of littler ones in the background. I quite like to make sure that they look a bit uneven. I don't like them to look too even and formed. So they're very, very red. If I take a bit of the alizarin crimson in, again, I'm activating it a lot on that brush. Then those red poppies will have different tone because the alizarin crimson's a bit bluer and a bit darker. And they're really spreading out nicely, nice and fluid. I'm just dabbing my brush off now. I need a little bit of water. So this is ivory black. So ivory black isn't shooty. So Payne's grey is quite shooty. So if you're using that, I would recommend that you don't use it. Either use ivory black or use something like ultramarine and burnt umber together that make a very nice dark. You don't want it to shoot too much. So I'm going to pop the centre of these poppies in. So I'm doing quite a lot to say this is going to be pen and wash. But this means that I need less pen. Last colour that I'm going to go into is some sap green. So I can just pop in a little bit of foliage. So with your complementary colours, this is always worth knowing, red and green make brown, and you don't want to make brown poppies, so you're going to be very careful when you come on with this, that you don't take it into your poppy colour. So I'm just keeping that just nice and fluid at the bottom. And then I need some very fine stems here. So I'll do this with a number 6, but you could swap down to your rigger as well. Okay, and then the last thing that I want to do, just because I like it, I'm going to come back into the cerulean blue with my round number 6. Pop these other brushes down. So it's loaded up. I'm just going to be a bit more expressive. So I'm hitting my finger, the brush is loaded, and this is coming onto here, which is really nice. It just gives it a bit more of an expressive feel. Okay, so I'm going to dry that off and then we'll come on with the pen. Okay, so I've now got the pen. This is nicely dry, and in the other videos within the course, which is in a playlist, I've already gone through contouring with you, so how to contour with the pen to create the curves and the directional strokes. I've gone through random texture, and that's how to do that with the pen. I've gone through how to accentuate darks with the pen and things like cross hatching. So this, every little exercise that I'm doing with you, I'm giving you a bite-sized chunk to learn. So in this one, what I'm going to do is more of an outline, so it's more of a decorative effect, and it's still nice, quite nice to do. So I'm going to come in and start with the stems and bring those out. Got all of those stems there, and then we're going to go into the centres. So I'm doing little squiggles. We're just going to accentuate onto the watercolour. So I'm going to do a little curve around in here. So a little bit of a squiggle here. If it's damp in any places, it won't work, so you do need to make sure it's dry. So do those little squiggles. Build that texture up within the centre. Then we're going to start to take poppy petals. So you can take a really nice shape. And actually it's quite nice to leave bits of light, so you don't have to follow the exact lines. It's really nice to get little bits of light or bits of overlap. So you can see there's lots of lovely little bits of light, and you can add some directional strokes. So you can have some little bits where it might fold over. These ones in the background, I'm not going to be too precise about these. I'm just going to make a mark. So I'm going to leave bits that I'm not doing. So this is my technique of less is more. So if you leave odd little bits, it makes it look more random, and your eye will fill in the rest of the detail, or your brain. I'm going to come around this one. So I'm looking as I'm doing this and seeing what colours I can pick out. So I've got some really nice shapes there. And some directional marks again. And then this is our bigger one. So I'm going to start with a nice big area here. I'm going to pick out some of the green within there. So you've got some really lovely colours. Pick those out. few directional marks again. Variety. Follow that curve of the petal. Okay, and then we can come in to do some leaves here. So in previous videos I will have said it's best not to outline, but it depends on the subject. So now I am outlining because I want this to be quite decorative. So this is showing you there are rules, but you can break those rules. In the same way that I've gone around the petals and picked out different bits of colour, I'm doing the same with these leaves as well. So it's giving me an indication and I'm using that to my advantage. I'm pulling out the areas I want to pull out. That whole thing of less is more, I'm not going to do too much. I put a couple of centre veins in places, but I'm quite happy. I'm happy with this already. Now I want some contrast. So if I come into this section at the bottom, it's always nice to get a bit of weight and dark at the bottom. And I bring that in with a bit of pen, a bit of cross hatching, maybe a little bit here. That's going to give a bit of weight to the bottom of the page. See that working quite nicely. I'll pick out a little bit more here. Maybe a little bit here. Could do this with watercolour paint as well. But it's quite nice doing it with the pen because it's giving some nice texture. And then you can pull some of these little bits out if you want to. So maybe I'll do a few swirls because we're going decorative. So I'm going to do a few swirls on the blue, but not everywhere. You could do a few stars maybe, or wiggles. Just going to do a few. Okay, so I'll take the tape off. There we go, so that's finished and looks really pretty. It's what I would class as mindful doodling. It would make a fantastic, if mounted up, if you float mounted that on a greetings card, it would make a fantastic birthday card. So it just shows you how you can just play with that line and wash technique and effect to do something quite decorative. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll pop another video here in a playlist here, and I shall see you next time.